You might have noticed we're in a different setup today because we just finished our first face-to-face class, and I was unable due to technical difficulties to set up for our parang paano ba to? For our hybrid session. So what I'm doing instead is I am recording this post session to put together the key points that we went through during our face to face session so that those people who are working online can still, like catch up. To be fair, all we did today was a review of the materials that we've already studied. Bale parang naging ano lang siya, way to reorient ourselves to make sure that we understand the key concepts from modules 1, 2, and 3 before we move on and continue talking about chiefdoms and in module 4. So that's what's going to happen today. And because I didn't have a setup for uh, PowerPoint, because I couldn't set up my laptop to attach to the whole thing. Ganyan. Kanina, nag-board work lang kami. So, what I'm doing now is I'm kind of repeating the board work we did earlier and putting down a concept map for it, right? Okay. So, here's the thing, right? Our objectives are to, one, we want to review the key terms related to modules 1, 2, and 3, so we are sure we have a good foundation for analyzing analyzing political systems in modules 4 and beyond. That's the very first thing we need to do. And actually, that's the main thing that we did today. We also want to look at well, I guess you can't really ask questions right now because it wasn't a hybrid session. I'm very sorry for that. But okay, since you can't ask, what we're gonna do is just kind of identify what sorts of key terms we're looking for. So we're looking to define specifically. We want to define old versus new political history, right? And we want to mm, sample models of analysis to check if we can apply them. And we'll use the same ones that your classmates mentioned earlier because I think they were really good examples. Thirdly, we would also like to uh there's another one. Yes, summarize yun na lang. Summarize mm, how to use the political systems model. So I think what we're gonna do later on is um oh I yeah, what we're gonna do later on is I will be creating another, well, we'll be moving to board work so I can show you exactly how we put the concepts together on the board, especially when it came to the third point, summarizing how to use the political systems model. Actually, the uh modified specifically for this course. Modified specifically for this course, right? So those are the three things we're going to try to do today. Okay. So, seeing those are our objectives, let's move on to the first part, which is let's try to define old versus new political history. Yeah, and I know for the people who have already seen this in the past, you can skip forward. But I realized early on that it's just a good way to begin the conversation, right? So let's try to go back to what we mean by old versus new political history exactly, and uh, the key question that underlies that, which is why is political history relevant again? Right. And when we were doing this in class earlier today, we discussed how, there's actually a difference in wait, let's use a different model for that now. There's a difference in scope or subject between old and new political history. There's a difference in analytic method. Yeah. And there's also a difference in the sources used, right? Sources used. Okay. So, how do we organize this information? Okay, so going through each of these, let's say one branch represents mm, old political history, and one branch represents new political history or our reoriented political history. No? So we'll put that there and we'll say, in terms of scope and subject, actually, no, there's a better way to organize that. No? In terms of scope and subject, old political history really focused more on something called, or on something that Jacques Le Goff called la politique, or great men and politics, and the politics of nation state, right? So they were looking at these events and items that were very specific to, sige, organize natin, that were very specific to the people who had mm, a say in reorganizing collective life on the level of policymaking or wars or diplomacy and so on and so forth. Okay, so in terms of new political history, as your classmates mentioned earlier, we have the topics, or as subject, we now also study politics as the mm, relationships of power or power relations that create a society, that define a society, that underlie na lang a society. And besides that, in terms of subject, we're looking at those who were previously marginalized as well. In addition to traditional, yan na lang. I don't want to say great men, right? Traditional subjects. We now also study marginalized, previously marginalized people. Yeah. So this is something that you're already pretty familiar with. How about analytic method? So in terms of analytic method, actually, um, we have a couple of items that describe old political history and new political history. So analytically, the tendency was for old political history to be linear or episodic, chronological explanations of events as they happened based on archival records. For the most part, no, this was how they wrote history. Okay, sige, let's do that. Now, how about new political history? Now, new political history, as you already know, tries to use diachronic analysis and looks for change and continuity across different periods of time. Right? So episodes are important. They're the building blocks to looking for larger patterns, or maybe not even patterns, larger similarities between different periods and what people do economically, politically, and socially. Yeah. So there we go. Okay, next we're gonna look at sources used. So this is just a summary. There are other items as well, of course, but for the sake of summarizing all of this, let's um, talk about how now, instead of just archival records, dati archival documents are the gold standard. No document, no history, right? So if you didn't really have documents or archival documents related to your past, then you would be studied by a different branch of history entirely. Now, under the new political history, we're looking at a variety of sources, whether written, oral, material, etc. No. Yeah. So I hope everyone is on the same page when we say this is what we mean by the differences in old and new political history. So, with these new scopes and subjects, analytic methods, and sources of history, we see how political history evolved to once more be able to address many areas of life rather than the very constrained traditional idea that it was great men of history in the halls of, like great power that we studied. So it's not just that. We're looking at power relations at different moments in time. Right? Okay, and that's what we summarized from module 1.